Hi, everybody. I'm Brendan Murphy.
And I'm Matthew Brown. And welcome back to yet another episode of A Few Good Movies. Today, we're going to get into a fun old Christmas movie, the 2000 version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But before we get into all the chaos and what that movie is, I need you to please like, comment, and subscribe right down there below. It takes 10 seconds, and it means the absolute world to us. That's it. That's all I got. All right,
Absolutely.
Brendan, let's get to it.
All right. So like you said, we were talking about 2000s, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, directed by Ron Howard. Kind of back when Ron Howard was really getting his stride going. Like he's about to go on his run where like he wins an Oscar for A Beautiful Mind. He's directed Apollo 13 at this point. All that good stuff. Jim Carrey is still one of the kings of the box office. Like can do anything. Release anything, it'll make $100 million, no question. I'm pretty sure Liar Liar has already come out. Like
Liar Liar. I was just about to say, I'm pretty sure 1999 Liar Liar came out, which was top, and I believe The Mask also came out, which was like what took Jim Carrey. That's the old famous. He wrote himself a $25 million check or whatever, and it basically cashed right there when those two movies hit box office.
I mean, listen, movies we both love, movies we both hold in high esteem. Yeah. I wish I had seen Liar Liar more, but like The Mask, man, I'm a big Mask guy. I love that movie so much.
If we're talking comedy, Liar Liar is potentially my favorite movie by Jim Carrey. I almost
top tier.
Myself laughing, dude. It is so his physical comedy in that movie is unmatched.
Yeah. See, I feel like we picked this movie because I think we're both in the same mindset of like we both love Jim Carrey. Obviously, I think if you're kind of our generation, you kind of grew up with Jim Carrey a little bit. Obviously, we talked about Liar Liar, and we didn't even speak about Dumb and Dumber at all, which is also you got to talk about Dumb and Dumber a little bit because
hold on, was it Dumb and Dumber and Mask? Did Liar Liar come later?
Let me do a quick check.
Now all of a sudden, I think I might have misquoted the Liar Liar thing because I think that came out after.
I mean, here's the crazy thing. There's this magic year for Jim Carrey where he releases 3 movies in the same year that are all like crazy big. Let me check. Okay, so all right. So here's the miracle year. 1994 is the miracle year. So it's 1994. So it's Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber in 1 year. Essentially becomes a movie star within 1 year. Like so, Ace Ventura hits. I think in let me just check real quick. February. Ace Ventura comes out in February. Mm-hmm. Mask comes out in July. Mm-hmm. And Dumb and Dumber comes out in December.
Towards Christmas, yeah.
Yes. So essentially you have these 3 movies where so Ace Ventura hits in February, is a big hit, and everyone's like, oh my gosh. So we got to put like all our energy into these Jim Carrey movies because they're going to make so much money. So you have Mask in summer, which is another huge hit. Debuts Cameron Diaz. Like once she walks onto the scene, she's a massive movie star because of it.
Absolutely.
Still one of the just like sexiest women. Like in that movie specifically.
Dude. Yeah, she's so hot.
She walks into the room like it's crazy. Still.
It's pretty wild.
And then Dumb and Dumber is a 90s classic to where it's just like everybody knows Dumb and Dumber. Everyone knows the line. Like it's one of those just massive movies you can't go through life not watching. But to get to more in the good area, so Liar Liar is 97.
Yeah, okay.
98 is Truman Show.
Yep.
99 is Man on the Moon, Me, Myself, and I. And I think Man on the Moon is 99. So we're in this area where Carrey is starting to get a little more serious. He's starting to go for that Oscar bid a little bit. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Truman Show is one of those big movies that everyone's like, how did he not get an Oscar for it? Soon we got Eternal Sunshine in 2004, which one of my favorites right there. Probably my favorite Carrey performance.
Yeah, a lot of people love that one. That's a big one.
But so around 2000, we have Jim Carrey. Everybody loves him. Big movie star. All of his movies are usually pretty popular. They make a lot of money, except maybe he's more dramatic stuff. Like I'm not sure how well Man on the Moon did. But
which is very, have you seen, just, I don't want to divert too much here from the Grinch, but have you seen that documentary called Andy and I? It's about Jim Carrey. It's all these behind the scenes of him being in character and not leaving it and all the trouble he caused on set. Mm-hmm. Incredible. You want to see an actor truly not ever go out of character for months. It's crazy, dude. It is. I already loved that movie anyways because of just, we're talking about Andy Kaufman. So, great biopic.
No, Milos Forman, obviously he's done like Amadeus, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. The man knows how to make a good biopic. Like two of those. Amadeus specifically is maybe my favorite biopic that's been made. Like I'm a huge fan of
for sure.
That movie.
Speaking of Man on the Moon, I forget that alter ego that Andy Kaufman plays. That guy who's got he talks like this. He's got the glasses on. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the name that character plays, but I see the influence in it in the Grinch. But some of the times the Grinch talks, I'm like, oh, there he is. That's that voice. It was pretty cool when I was listening to that.
Yeah, for sure. See, I still have not seen Man on the Moon, and I know, I still want to see it because obviously it's one of those Jim Carrey performances, and like you said, I've heard of the documentary and how much of a pain it was to get that performance to where Carrey wanted it and where Milos Forman wanted it. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things where it's just like, how available is it for me to see it these days? That too. So it's like, but it's definitely on my list.
Okay.
But so you have kind of this like big kind of perfect storm brewing with Grinch. So let me make sure I have the specific, like what the budget was on this movie. Cause I need to know what the budget on this movie is. Cause it looks insanely expensive. Like that's one of the main things going forward for me. And like, cause we're going to get into it later on kind of how we enjoy it now as opposed to how we enjoyed it as kids. But like, this is kind of like a technical marvel in a lot of ways for me personally.
Yeah,
it's.
Oh yeah, dude! Fire alarm!
Let's go, baby!
Get out! The Grinch is coming into town, people.
Yes, sir.
We got to get out.
He's crashing this podcast. He's ready to take it down.
He's coming down the mountain, dude. The slopes are bitching.
Dude, the slopes are bitching. Crazy thing to think about that a Grinch movie has that line in it. We're gonna get into all that weird stuff because I know that's what people want to hear us talk about is how weird this fucking movie is. It's what we were talking about over the last week after watching it. All we can talk about is how insane this movie kind of is.
Yeah, even crazier, he says that bitchin' line to the youngest person in the movie.
Yeah, 100%. Except the babies. That's the only person young.
Yeah, the babies.
So this movie cost $123 million to make. I feel like I see all of it on screen. These sets are incredible. Apparently, they used about 11 sound stages for all the different sets and everything like that. Like, essentially, I listened to the director's commentary when watching it this time because I wanted to know how it was made. Because obviously, I think, once again, because our generation loves Jim Carrey so much, and, when you're younger, your radar for, like, what's good and what's not isn't necessarily locked in yet.
For sure.
So I think we all still, like, kind of have a love for this movie in a certain way just because we watched it so much as kids.
Absolutely. I had the VHS of it.
Yeah, so I really wanted to see, like, what was the process of making this movie and, like, how much work went into it, how much dedication went into it. And it sounds like a lot. Like I said, $123 million budget. These sets are incredible. Just the design of them. Yeah, and it's not like this is one of those things, like, you go to Universal a lot, oh, you've used the set in 100 movies. Like, no, this is, like, from scratch. They built all these buildings, like, all to look like it's Seuss or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then you talk about the makeup.
That's what I want to talk about.
Yeah, which Rick Baker, one of the greatest makeup artists who's ever lived.
Okay.
You talk about people who, like, iconic makeup work throughout their careers. I want to make sure I get all those, like, big credits in there. I'm pretty sure he did all the stuff for The Thing. That sounds about right to me.
Yeah, when you look at these characters and how they all even have, except Cindy Lou Who, they all even have, like, this prosthetic thing to make their noses go up. I don't even want to know how, actually I do want to know, but how long do you think Jim Carrey was sitting in that makeup chair every morning? Probably hours.
Hours every morning. There's no question.
4 a.m. so they could shoot at 8.
Yeah. But so Rick Baker, he is one of the guys who's worked on the original Star Wars trilogy, worked with Cronenberg and Videodrome. He did like any of the bigger makeup, like he did the Tim Burton remake of Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
He's done a lot of the Batman movies. Like a guy who has been around, and like Men in Black, X-Men, like Hellboy, like any of these movies where you find these iconic characters and this iconic makeup work, Rick Baker is usually involved in some way, shape, or form.
Got his thumbprint on it somehow.
For sure. And I feel like he's been this widely like influential figure in that world too. Like, you know, Oscar-winning, iconic kind of makeup artist. And you have to imagine this was one of the worst movies to work on if you were a makeup artist, because it's everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
Everybody who walks into the set, extras, anybody who's on camera.
Dude, that's what I was thinking about when, you know, some of the experience I have doing background work, and I'm sitting there watching these big scenes of like the Holiday Cheermeister and all that stuff, and I'm seeing all these people, and I'm like, good God, this scene was a nightmare for those people to get ready in terms of special effects makeup. They dreaded that day. Had to.
Well, it's not even that. It's like every day, whenever there's a big shot of Whoville, it's not like, oh, there are a couple of people around. Like, it's packed. It's jam-packed.
So many people.
But, like, when the Grinch is just walking through at the beginning and all the Who's are walking around him, it's really crazy to think about how much time, how much effort. Like, we were talking a little bit about this with Nightmare Before Christmas a little bit, but how much time went into each shot, it's kind of crazy to think about how many makeup artists were involved. I didn't watch the end credits all the way through, but now I wish I did so I could see how many makeup artists worked on this movie and how many people did they work on a day. How long did it take to get the makeup on just one person? Probably just this insane process.
Dude, I've got the list up here on IMDb right now of the makeup department, and it's more people than there are in the actual cast.
I'm sure.
There is 50, 60 names. It looks like I'm going down a high school graduation list. There were so many names on this.
I'm sure. Because it's not, because the cast list, that's just the people that are credited. Like, right. You also got to think who's in the background, all these flashbacks with like the kids, which don't have as much makeup on them, but they got makeup on them and there's still work to be done there. And how many different iterations of the Grinch there are. I mean, you have the teenage one, you have the one that's obviously older, you have the little Grinch puppet baby that's like
fake? That thing seems fake, like it's real.
Oh, that's a puppet, there's no question.
Yeah, I don't think that's a kid. It looks weird.
No. 100%. But I don't know, I want to leave it this because it's insane. It's really insane. I mean,
it's one of the things, too, that I think a lot of people, you know, just your average movie watcher, they're going to kind of take that for granted, all that work that was put in, all that makeup to build those sets. It's just like, oh, it's a movie. This is what it should look like. It's like, no, that's very, very elaborate stuff that took a lot of planning, a lot of work, and a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, especially this is a movie that's targeted towards children. Exactly. Children aren't going to be thinking about, like, oh, how much time did it take to put that guy's makeup on. They're not going to be thinking about that when they're watching The Grinch. They're just going to be thinking, oh, it's The Grinch. That's super cool. This is nice. This is fun. Jim Carrey is being wacky. This is great. But even then you talk about the sets, which are just as elaborate and probably took just as much time to get right.
Mm-hmm. Or those cars. I'm sure it's just like something that they put over something right. It's just like kind of like a shell, but still those, I mean, there's several different cars in this movie too, and none of them are real. So these were all built from scratch.
Yeah. And I mean, there are a lot of locations in this movie too, which is crazy that they were like
ones, like his cave that he lives in, huge. And they got all kinds of props and stuff laying around in there.
Yeah. And then you also like the town square, how much of a pain, all these different buildings, like these walkways, like I was kind of blown away watching it again. And I knew this was going to be one of the things I kind of harped on even before I put it in, because I think it's one of the reasons I agreed to do this, because I feel like there's so much to talk about in that area of this kind of stuff, because it's not something that we get to talk about often, because it's not something that people put, not saying they don't, because there are movies that will put in the work to do this, but it's not something that's done a lot these days anymore.
I think you just need that, and I also think you need a certain type of movie. Not every movie demands this kind of extensive work on sets and characters because, you're not living in Dr. Seuss's world. So, I mean, I agree with you that, like, a lot don't do it, and a lot really, it's really hard to even get a movie that requires such extensive work.
Yeah.
And so that was an interesting thing for them to just bite off and chew and go for from the beginning to try to make this a live action version of a cartoon.
Yeah. Well, it's just also the fact that when a movie like this would come along, now it's all CGI and it's all motion capture, which I'm not saying there's not a lot of work that has to be done with that. There's an insane amount of work, and how far it's come, because especially I think I mentioned this on the podcast before, but I listen to the Blank Check podcast. They're going through Zemeckis miniseries, so I've been watching. Right now, we're in the area where it's like Polar Express, Beowulf, Christmas Carol, all the early motion capture movies that Robert Zemeckis did that like kind of started this whole role of now we're getting these Planet of the Apes movies. We're doing so much great work with motion capture, and now it's really getting to a point where it's seamless. Because to see where it was when it first happened, yikes. Still, like, it's yikes. Crazy bad. Like, obviously we have to understand that this was early and he was one of the first people really working on this, but it still weirds you out a lot. Just how fake everything looks.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about specifically those newer Planet of the Apes movies. Planet of the Apes movies, the earlier ones, are still classics that are such a great highlight of the makeup that goes into each of the apes and everything like that. Like, that's a huge part of those movies. And that's an Oscar-winning part of those movies. I'm pretty sure that they won Academy Awards for the makeup work in there.
Good.
But now it's all motion capture, which is great. They're great for those movies. I love those movies a lot.
The new ones are incredible. Not gonna lie.
The new ones are fantastic. But now when the opportunity to do a big makeup movie comes along, it's not, that opportunity isn't really taken. Now you'll have something come along, like say Mad Max Fury Road is a great example, where they gave George Miller the budget and the capital to just be like, hey, we're going to paint like 50 guys just all white. They're all going to have these like intricate designs. They're going to have all these scarring and all this shit all over them. And that's great. But yeah, I mean, one of the things I just kept thinking watching this movie was just like, they don't make them like they used to. And I know that's like an old man on his porch, get off my lawn thing to say, but it really was something special to watch again. And I know we're going to get into like the whole like bastardization of Dr. Seuss and all the like crass and stuff of this movie. And we're going to get into like some of the more detailed stuff along those lines. But I think, I was really dreading watching this again because I was like, how is this going to hold up? Because I know what it's like. I feel like the last time I watched this was maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I still remember liking it. But I was still like, there's some off-kilter stuff in this movie that I don't know ages the best. But it's going to be something I keep coming back to just for that alone. Just to see all that work, all that detail that was put into creating this world, despite what maybe came out of the actual movie itself.
Right.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear Ron Howard talk about it too. He said in the design of this movie, they wanted to make sure there were no right angles on anything. So any of the buildings you see.
Oh, they all curve.
The buildings set, no right angles.
That's fair. For a Dr. Seuss world, that is spot on, I think.
Yeah, 100%. If you want to know what the Grinch suit is made out of, it's made out of yak hair. So Jim Carrey has to get into a suit made of yak hair every single day to make this movie. Which I'm happy he did this in the commentary, but he talks a lot about how Jim Carrey was super dedicated. I think he loved doing it. I don't think you make this movie the way you do, and you don't have that performance be the way that it is if this isn't a labor of love at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because
Jim Carrey is honestly fantastic in this movie.
I still love him in this movie.
He's so funny, man.
He might not be a faithful adaptation of what the Grinch is supposed to be, but it's Jim Carrey just going off for like 2 hours. That's the thing. Like, I'm going to like that no matter what, because it's still Jim Carrey just being funny for 2 hours, doing his like fun voice. He's just being an absolute grump. He's in this fantastic makeup.
What I love is that because Jim Carrey is already, I mean, everyone knows this. He's an over-the-top, crazy antics. Now he gets to be in Dr. Seuss's world as the Grinch. So he's like, well, hey, Hallie, hey, I'm going to just go crazy with this because, I mean, this is the perfect role for him to lean into these things that are definitely his strong suits. Really his, what's the word I'm looking for, his calling card almost. This is what, like, how he was known. I mean, The Mask, like we're talking about, Dumb and Dumber, a lot of physical humor. Liar, Liar, major amount of physical humor.
Yeah.
And over-the-top ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, we've already talked about it, but, like, how much makeup he's under, how much of a pain it must have been to wear that suit and have to perform in there. It was funny. They did a table read or something along those lines, or Jim Carrey was reading lines for Ron Howard or something along those lines after he'd gotten the job and everything. But he's such a physical actor that even without the suit, he'd just be like beads of sweat dropping down his face, like out of it. And I can't imagine how tough it must have been to make this performance as expressive as it is, being under all of that. Yeah. And Jim Carrey's still being able to just perform under it or just emote in any way, shape, or form. It must have been a fucking pain. But the fact he's able to is amazing.
For sure. But I'm also going to give a little bit of credit to Jim Carrey in that, like, it probably was hard, but I mean, you can go all the way back to his old days of being on, what's it called? Like the late night talk, or like the David Letterman, like the late night talk shows. He does this real physical humor stuff that looks ridiculous. I mean, he's been doing that since he was doing stand-up comedy when he was damn near 17, 18, if you go back to watch.
I mean, listen, I'll go down the rabbit hole of watching all the old Fire Marshal Bill clips on YouTube all the time. Fire Marshal Bill, man, one of my favorites.
The best. In Living Color, all y'all are asleep. I need you to go watch In Living Color, the start of Jim Carrey's career and one of the most underrated skit shows of all time.
Yeah. Dude, Fire Marshal Bill still makes me laugh my ass off every single time I watch one of those videos.
That stupid face he does or whatever, he's got shit blown up. Fire Marshal Bill, completely unacceptable for today's culture, but absolutely hilarious.
Oh, he's fantastic. But yeah, he's always been this very physical guy, but that's what I'm saying. Like, he's always been this physical, but then you see this, and it's this huge challenge to still be physical. He's still as physical in this movie as he is in any of the others. Yes. That's what's crazy to me because he's under so much.
And I don't think anybody but Jim Carrey can pull that off.
No, it's a short list, even if there is anybody, which I don't think there is.
I'd put maybe one more person on it, but they're not really, I don't even know if they're alive anymore. Oh God, Peter, oh God, I just had it. What's his name?
You're Dr. Strangelove?
Dr. Strangelove. What's his name?
Peter Sellers.
Peter Sellers. Peter Sellers is the only person. He wasn't even as physical, but Peter Sellers is the only person immediately off top. I'm like, he might be able to pull this off, but who knows? He hadn't been around for years, so.
Because you think about other comedians, like in the generation before Carrey, like Bill Murray would never have the patience to do this shit. He'd say, like, there's no shot. You're getting him in that makeup every single day. He's out.
For sure.
As much as he's one of the great grumps of cinema, like Scrooged is great, Groundhog Day is great. He's so great in Ghostbusters. The guy who's like, come on, there's no shot. What are you talking about? Like, he's great for that. He'd be a great Grinch, but he's just like, he would never do this kind of thing. He has no patience for it.
Yeah, I don't think he'd have the physicality to do it either.
No. And that's what's great about him. Like, I love that Bill Murray wouldn't have taken the role. He's like, get the fuck out of here. I'm not putting that on. Maybe Eddie Murphy would have done this. Like, there's a great picture.
That's a good one.
But it's also that thing where I don't think it's that he's super physical. I think he loves doing makeup shit. Because there's a great picture. I think he was probably making the Clumps around this time. Because there's a picture of Jim Carrey as the Grinch and Eddie Murphy as the Nutty Professor, just like right next to each other. Like, because I think they were on the Universal lot at the same time, like in these insane makeup jobs.
That sounds like a pretty iconic picture to have.
Yeah, it was pretty solid to see. I enjoyed seeing it. The only other person that comes to mind is maybe Robin Williams. It's
a good one. I'll never doubt Robin Williams ever. So I would agree. Robin Williams is a really good one.
Now he's not as going to the mat as somebody like Jim Carrey does. Like, I don't think Robin Williams also has a very calm side to him that he doesn't have to go fucking insane every 5 seconds.
For sure.
But, you see something like the best sidekick performance in a Disney movie, The Genie. It has all this energy, all this kind of just insane velocity to it that can't be stopped.
Yeah. But, I think like you just said, that's a voiceover, obviously, which he can bring that energy, but that physicality is where I agree. I don't think he could bring.
See, because here's what I was about to bring up. Mrs. Doubtfire. He kind of did something similar to this.
Okay, you're right. That's a good
where
argument.
He's like buried in makeup the whole time. He's having to like emote through all of that. Now, it's tough to say how, like, matching up how extensive was the makeup on Mrs. Doubtfire and how extensive was the makeup on Grinch.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he's not buried in the suit made full of just yak hair and the most disgusting, like.
And he's only Mrs. Doubtfire for a third of the movie.
Yeah. So it's tough to say.
Sure.
But you think back to that performance, kind of in the same vein a little bit, where an actor is buried under all this makeup. He's got to do all this physical kind of work. I mean, who could forget Robin Williams as Mrs. Doubtfire just dancing around doing chores? Great stuff. Big fan. Yeah. Probably going to watch it tonight because I just mentioned it, and I'm fucking, why not? Mrs. Doubtfire, man. Great movie.
Another classic.
So good. But yeah, it's a really incredible performance, and I feel like Jim Carrey is one of those guys now where we all say he should have gotten an Oscar. He's a great performer, and I think it's kind of in the same way that Leo was, like, he's kind of taken for granted a little bit, especially these days. Yeah, at certain point, like,
absolutely.
Because I mean, I already mentioned it, but like, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is this crazy good performance. He's so good in that movie. It's such a different lane than he's ever been in, and he pulls it off so well. And then you talk about something like Truman Show, he's so great in. And then we've already talked about so many of the great comedies that he's been in.
Dude, Me, Myself, and Irene, God, he's great in that.
Mm-hmm.
He's fantastic.
For sure. But yeah, man. And it's that thing where I miss him. He's one of those guys I miss seeing him around. Like, it was funny. I was watching Inglourious Bastards again this week. And it was just like, it's like Mike Myers too. Where it's just like, man, I miss seeing him around. Where'd they go? And like, listen, I understand. It takes a lot to do what these guys do. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of commitment. They're older guys now, and they have all the money in the world.
Right.
So, like, I get it.
And we all know Jim Carrey's went on a whole mental adventure the past couple of years.
Yeah. But, like, also, we expect that from him. Like, he gets to do it. Like, but he's, like, still, every interview, I'm, like, captivated. He's so interesting. He has so much fun stuff to say. I was listening to, there was a clip going around, and I'd always heard the story, but I had never heard Jim Carrey himself tell it. But he was on the Norm Macdonald podcaster show or whatever it was that he was on. But he was talking about him making Batman Forever with Tommy Lee Jones. And apparently Tommy Lee Jones fucking hated him the whole time. Like, he already knew, like, on set there was a tension, but one night Jim Carrey goes out to dinner and he sees Tommy Lee Jones across the room, and he just goes up to say hi real quick, just like, hey, Tommy, how you doing? And Tommy Lee Jones's face goes white. He's just like shocked, like, oh no, I can't do this. What do you do? And he, like, apparently he gets up to, like, do like the normal, like, hey, I'll give you a hug real quick, like that kind of deal. And he just says, I cannot sanction your buffoonery. It's one of the greatest things I've ever heard that Tommy Lee Jones has said. Is, I cannot sanction your buffoonery.
Do you think this was happening because Jim Carrey was doing, I mean, he was the Riddler, obviously. So, I mean, do you think it might have been one of those cases where he stays in character and he's just doing all kinds of antics off camera? Maybe.
I think it wouldn't have mattered. I think Tommy Lee Jones, talk about a grump. That man is upset all day, every day. That man has a face that's always just like, do not talk to me, stay away from me, I don't give a shit. Like, and anyone who's like as high energy as Jim Carrey comes around him and is like doing all this shit, he's probably just looking over like, fucking stop. Why are you so fucking happy and joyful all the time? Just fucking stop it.
That's pretty fair, because I don't think I've ever seen Tommy Lee Jones smile except at like the end of the first and second Men in Black. I don't know. Yeah. I don't think he ever smiles.
Dude is grumpy, and like, listen, Tommy Lee Jones is great at being grumpy. I don't want him any other way. He's so good at it. I mean, so many great performances, like Men in Black specifically. He's great in that movie because he's the older, kind of grumpier, just like, aliens, we got to go deal with them.
Yeah, just mad about being in a secret society.
Yeah, and then No Country for Old Men is fantastic. I mean, he's great actor, fantastic, and he knows exactly how to work his persona and how he can be deployed.
Yes.
Lincoln was another great one over the last 10 years. Just like this absolute grump. I love it. He's great. But it's just Jim Carrey walks into the room and he's a fucking Tasmanian devil bouncing all over the room. Tommy Lee Jones is going to get pissed off. There's no question.
I can see that. It's like the old grandpa getting mad at the new kids.
It's fire and ice. It's two completely different personalities.
100%.
And it's this movie that asks a lot of Tommy Lee Jones to be over the top and kind of insane, and it's like all bright and colorful, and he's just like, what are we doing? Like he's in the same way as Clint Eastwood. He's just like, one take, like, get me out of here. Like, I want to be done. Get me out of this makeup. It's great. Like, he's perfect. I love Tommy Lee Jones. He's fantastic. But yeah, it's just, I mean, Jim Carrey, just absolute fucking stud. Love him so much. Great performance in this movie. Does a lot with what's given to him. Even some of the more like emotional stuff. Like, I feel like the moment where he like hears the Who singing Dahu Doris, like it's pretty good. Like, it's nice. It's pretty emotional for a performance that's been mostly kind of sarcastic and cynical and very laugh in your face, all that kind of deal. Like, for him to kind of pull off that emotion is pretty spectacular. And then the next 10 minutes of him being like super cheery and all that, it works very nice for me personally. Yeah,
I think that speaks to the talent to be able to have these wild, crazy antics in this movie, and then there's still a few touching moments that like you feel for, and you're like, you feel for the Grinch, and like you feel his pain and how he's as you watch the movie, he's just a child who was scarred during Christmas, and so he's forever haunted by it. That's why he hates it. You feel that, and that's really hard to do, especially how ridiculous most of this movie is.
Yeah, and once again, just he's under so much fucking makeup and costuming. It's bad for it. Like, yikes. Which we didn't even touch on the costumes. Great costumes too. Same work as like the sets and makeup.
Yeah, that I kind of grouped that up. We didn't specifically say, but to me, when we talk about
gotta shout it out.
Design, I mean that is all together. The people who do the things, like I said, wardrobe, set design, makeup, the things that a lot of people, your average movie watcher does not think about at all.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen that or watched them work, they're talented, and this business wouldn't be a place without them.
It's the people on the radio shows who, like, every morning after the Oscars, like, why are we giving awards for makeup and like sound mixing and stuff like that? It's like, because it's fucking hard.
Yeah,
and your movies
clearly don't know how hard this shit is.
And your movies don't work unless they're there and they're done well. Like, dude,
especially when you get into other stuff, like Star Wars, just anything that is not, just talking heads, and you start adding special effects and stuff.
Yeah.
Even those movies that you take for granted, like, okay, a perfect Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12. People take for granted how great those suits are that they give Brad Pitt, and all the different outfits they got. Oh, man.
No, I agree. I mean, here's the thing, and it's going to sound like very new, but like, once you like go to film school and like you have to do the stuff that people say like doesn't really matter, shit matters. Like, if you once you have your like first terrible sounding student film, you like want to jump off a cliff. Like, it's
say that one again.
Yeah, it's the worst.
Yeah.
You can't when your fucking sound is terrible, the whole movie's ruined. It doesn't matter. Like, one of these things falls apart, it's all over.
I'll give you a good personal example.
Yeah.
Shame on me for this one.
Mm-hmm.
But we shot this great little, it was supposed to be like, I forget, like a mockumentary. That's what I'm looking for. It was this fun little mockumentary. And I was shooting sound all day.
Yeah.
And I got my handy recorder, or whatever they're called.
The H4Ns.
Yeah, I got my boom mic up here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm recording all day long until the last shot. And it's a moving shot. And the whole time I'm moving, I keep hearing, I was like, it sounds like the mic's brushing up against something. So then we go back and check the mic. Turns out I had been recording from the handy recorder that was in my pocket the whole time. So the whole thing was ruined. And I got to sit there and just look like a log. Just, my bad, y'all. It was terrible, dude. It was terrible.
Sit there for like 10 minutes and everyone just gets to berate you for like a little bit.
I was like, you can all shame me. I deserve it. I'm the problem.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My bad, guys. Like, yeah, like it's like it's the worst. It's like I remember like I lost sound on one of my like student projects and it fucking sucked. It's the worst. It's this thing you don't think about, but when you like finally start making these, it's fucking important. It's super important.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, I'll even give you an example. So, if Beale Street Could Talk, wonderful movie, great movie, with one of the best scores I've seen in a while. I remember sitting there in the theater, and there are a couple scenes in a police station, and there's the ambient sound of like everything going on in a police station while they're like talking, everything like that. And the sound was there's the sound going on that's just like a police officer talking into the radio, and I didn't realize it till halfway in because I was like, is there someone in like the little aisle, like a worker in the movie theater, like over there just like talking on the radio while the movie's going on? What's happening? And then I realized it was a movie. I was like, oh shit, that's kind of great that I felt like it was in the theater. Like just one of those things that like is important in the immersion whenever you're watching one of these movies. So yeah, listen, there's a reason some people are like stay after the credits and like see all the, because they're hard jobs. They really are. And they don't get the credit they deserve, especially when people got to like sit through the Oscars and they're like, I want to see who wins best picture, best actor. Like, no, like you gotta give these guys their respects. Like they put in so much hard work. It's really incredible.
These sets have sometimes hundreds of people on it. Don't think that this movie was made by the guy, the director. A lot of people, I mean, I know before I delved into this field at all, you know, there was 3 people. There was the director, the actors, and the guy with the camera. Nobody else mattered. And then all of a sudden I was like, wow, these guys are like, they make it come to life, but all these other things are just as important. They really are. It takes an army to make a film. It doesn't take one person.
Yeah. And specifically this movie. I think this is why we're getting into this discussion on this one, because it is such this massive thing.
Yes.
It really is. I don't think we can downplay that enough. This movie took a lot of fucking work. And Ron Howard keeps on mentioning in the commentary, this took a lot of fucking work. Like, speaking about like the Grinch's cave and everything like that, apparently everything in that set is built out of foam. So like every piece, they got to like get this big old thing of foam. They got to get a chainsaw to it. They just got to hack until they get the shape of kind of what they want and then go to work on it. I mean, it's not even that the locations themselves are crazy and insane, which they are. It's that every little thing is too. Every little thing has this crazy design to it, this crazy look to it, to be something in the vein of Dr. Seuss.
Dude, I was even thinking about when I was watching the scene and the sleigh that he made himself, and it's all full when he like rides it back down when they're like all celebrating. I was sitting there looking at that and I'm like, good God. I was like, well, how'd they put that thing together and get it out there?
Yeah.
It's 30, 40 feet tall.
Massive.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Insane movie, which I feel like now is the time to get into the insane aspects of it. I think we've gone on enough about the makeup, the sets, all that good stuff. They did an incredible amount of work on this. I feel like it was they did such incredible work on this movie. But now we got to get into the actual movie itself, which is crazy. Yeah. It's crazy.
Hardly a child's movie, people.
It's insane how like what they put in this movie. And I think you get Jim Carrey. I'm not sure how capable Jim Carrey is of giving like a G-rated performance. I'm sure he has to, like, I think Horton Hears a Who is when he gets like a little closer to maybe what a Dr. Seuss character should talk like, but man, it's crazy. I mean, like we already said, like, what is it? It's like the sun is out and the snow is bitching. Like, that's crazy that they put that. They were like, let's put that in the Dr. Seuss movie, because here's the thing I was thinking when I watched it. And I don't necessarily think this is a knock against this movie. It is in some ways, but it's also, I can think of it as its own thing and not really part of Dr. Seuss's canon. But like Dr. Seuss, I had to imagine he'd hate this movie in some ways.
It reminds me a little bit of like Stephen King with The Shining. I feel like this is not Dr. Seuss's original vision for the Grinch.
No. I mean, there's a reason I feel like they made this movie after he passed. Like, I don't think there's any shot that he would sanction any. Like, it's the same thing with Tommy Lee Jones. I will not sanction your buffoonery. Like, there's no shot that
exactly.
Dr. Seuss would let this kind of happen to his movie, especially. And Ron Howard was talking a lot about this in the commentary. I mean, that original book is about like challenging the like ideal of Christmas becoming this capitalist thing. It's all about the gifts. It's all about the trimmings. All about the decorations, and it's turned into this not what Christmas is supposed to be. Essentially, it's kind of been bastardized a little bit.
Absolutely. There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, and this huge, big budget commercial studio, Universal Pictures made movie, pretty commercial, I would say. Like, it's one of the most commercial. Like Christmas, like I don't know specifically what it would be, but it has to be one of the biggest budgeted Christmas movie ever made, or at least at the top. I don't know what else would really challenge it.
Yeah,
I mean, $123 million. That's not something you turn your nose up at. I mean, maybe like one of the bigger action movies, but even then, I don't think it goes that high. Like maybe. If you want to consider it one, which I do because I'm a fucking nerd, but like Iron Man 3 maybe is a bigger budget, but like this movie's it's huge. It's huge. It's not this like smaller, really taking a look at what's going on. It's this very commercial product. This isn't made by some independent studio. It's made by Universal Pictures, the one with the theme parks.
This movie was meant for the box office.
Yes. You don't give a movie $123 million unless you were expecting a big box office. Like, you hire Jim Carrey, you hire Ron Howard.
Bring in $123 million in the box office off top by himself.
Yeah. So I have to, like I said at the beginning, I have to imagine that Dr. Seuss would not be a huge fan of this movie.
I would agree. There's too many sexual undertones in this movie for Dr. Seuss.
And if you're thinking of this as a Dr. Seuss movie, yes, it's awful. It's terrible. It creates the look. It does the makeup well. It has the dedication of bringing that kind of world to life, but you get to the nitty gritty of it, this is not a Dr. Seuss movie.
Doesn't have the pace, doesn't have the feel, no way.
It doesn't have the messaging, really. Yeah, sure, obviously, there's the big moment at the end where, like, well, maybe it doesn't come in a box, and it all works very well for what the movie is, but you look at the rest of the movie, it's...
Dude, even then, though, even when he becomes part and, like, he gives in, he's literally mocking he's like, rah, do, heart, right? As the movie's ending, he's still mocking it.
Yeah. Well, that's great for me because I like the Jim Carrey performance and I think it's funny. But it's so far from what the original vision of what the book is.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is fine. Obviously, we have the cartoon. If we want to go back to like a very faithful adaptation of it, we can go to the cartoon for it.
Well, watch that Christmas special.
It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic.
But this is not that in any way, shape, or form.
If you went in expecting that, you got let down by this movie.
I mean, a lot of people were. I still feel like this is a very like heated discussion among people.
Yeah.
Still, because it's the same thing as like the prequels or something like that, where we grew up with it. So this was our Grinch for a while.
Literally.
Yeah. I mean, I still talk to buddies today, and we're still like, yeah, we still kind of like that movie. Like, it's pretty fun. Jim Carrey's great because we all love Jim Carrey so much.
Oh, sorry, got a fan out real quick.
Yeah.
So the best moment I've ever had living in Los Angeles, people, I was doing background on the show called, I forget it, but it's the one where Jim Carrey's the producer. It's about stand-up comedies back in the 70s. He just shows up on set one day and he says, hey, am I on camera? And I just thought someone was trying to be funny. He says it again, and I turn, and he's about as close to me as that door right there. Oof. And for the first and only time in my life, people, I was starstruck. I went,
yeah. Yeah. It's Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I did. I was like, this is Jim Carrey. This is everything. What is this? Only time I've ever been starstruck in my entire life. Greatest moment it's like your Christopher Nolan moment. That's what it is for me.
Did you do the whole, like, I'm such a big fan of your work yet? Or did you stay silent?
No, see, I thought, so check it out. So first when he got there, nobody said anything because it was like, oh, we're on set. He's the producer. We can't do that.
Yeah.
Then at the end, when we were wrapping up, he was kind of walking out right next to me. Everyone was still kind of like this. And I was like, Matthew, this might be your only moment.
Yeah.
And I was like, Jim, I just got to tell you, man, you're like the greatest. You're my idol, dude. I mean, I don't usually do this, but like this, you're incredible. I can't. He's like, thanks, man. He had this long hair because he had just done that. Whatever show he did on like Showtime or
the Mr. Rogers one, kind of. Yeah.
Which was kind of weird, but he had that long hair. He had some high knee socks with some cargo shorts on. I was like, this is the coolest fucking thing that's ever happened.
For sure. See, it was the same thing when because you were there too, but like when Sandler came into our place of work. When Sandler came into our place of work, I was like, I didn't want to do it either. I was like, I'm at my job. I'm trying to be professional, like all that kind of stuff. But I was like, also, this is the one chance you're gonna have to say hi to Adam Sandler. This is the one chance.
Yeah, I couldn't contain it all. I took care of him and was like, yeah, I gotta say something.
Yeah, I have to be like, it's Adam Sandler. Like, I'm gonna break for a second and be like, hey, Mr. Adam Sandler, I like you a lot. Thank you so much for your work. Like, you got to do it.
You got to acknowledge the greatness of your idols.
Yeah. And it was around December last year, so it was around the time Uncut Gems come out. So I had to shout out, like, dude, you were great in Uncut Gems. Yep. I had to.
Wow, good times, man. Simpler times, December of last year. Good God.
I didn't have to wear a mask. It was great.
Yeah, we got to see his actual face. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was nuts. Good times. Dude, swing by the Burbank Chick-fil-A. Sometimes you'll meet celebrities. Sometimes you'll see them.
Tim Allen was there a couple days ago, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Jay Leno's a regular. He eats his chicken sandwiches by the trash can outside.
Yes, sir. Yes, he does.
I'm exposing Jay Leno right now. My bad.
Dude, I know the millions of fans who watch this podcast, they're going to be swarming the Burbank Chick-fil-A. All to see Jay Leno.
We better get a cut. We better get some commission.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm in Missouri, feed you guys customers.
Yeah. Dude, freaking, it's crazy. I mean, he comes in with the denim jacket. He comes in with the blue jeans. He comes in with the nice cars. It's great. It's a whole experience. It's awesome.
It's like he just got done recording an episode of Comedians with Coffee and Cars or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Comedians and Cars Getting Coffee.
That's it. I think that's it. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, man. It's real stuff. I mean, it's still that thing where I'm like only a year and a half maybe here. Like, I think I maybe just passed a year and a half here, something like that, where we're coming up on it. Like, it's still crazy the experiences, even with COVID going on, that I've had with like just like people like coming in. It's crazy. Fun stuff.
Dude, when COVID ends, wow, speaking of when COVID ends, see, I'm hot just because we just got done with the Bill Burr thing. When Bill Burr was in there, dude,
yeah,
I wish he would have came in 2 days ago after the fucking Mandalorian episode. I'd have been like, you are greatness.
Dude, he's a spicy deluxe, man. Never forget. Bill Burr, spicy deluxe.
Never forget.
Oh gosh, good stuff. But yeah, so I mean, let's get into the sexual politics of this movie, which are crazy.
Yeah, weird.
So I think me and you talked about this a little bit. Christine Baranski plays the love interest in this movie, which you don't expect there to be a love interest in the Grinch movie. Very strange. I feel like it's definitely too. It's a very second-handed thought. Like, not a ton of work is put into it. It's just like, we hired a very hot lady named Christine Baranski, who's a great actress. Love her so much. She's so great in all of her work, Broadway, whatever. Like, it's all great. Her film work. Shout out to the Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again fans out there. She's great in Mamma Mia too. Big fan of that stuff in there. She's fantastic. And it stinks to see her kind of wasted in this movie a little bit. She's really good in the scenes she's in. She's going for it. She's just as locked in as Carrey is to this character. Like, I don't think you can really try to fake this and come across as funny. I think because her character is that she wants to bang the Grinch at the end of the day.
She is wet in her pants every time he speaks.
She's ready to go.
Oh, she can't contain herself when she looks at him. She starts trembling. It's crazy.
Yeah. Even when she talks about him, she's just like, I need him. I need the Grinch.
Yeah, it's she's
going for it, man.
You got a burning desire.
I understand. Hey,
be a part of her.
I mean,
I'll fuck you. She wants to take a ride on the green machine.
She wants to take a ride on the green machine. Listen, we can't slip by the fact that she wants to take a ride on the green machine.
Must be acknowledged.
It's crazy that this is what we're talking about with this movie, but like, we have to bring it up. It's there.
Dude, this is our childhood. This is our childhood.
She is all in. She wants it. Like, she's
dude, even as that kid flashback, she's licking that lollipop pretty seductively.
She says like green, and like she's like rubbing his face, and it's like, I don't know if I like this. This is making me feel a little uncomfortable. I don't like that this is here.
I remember I was telling you too while I was watching it, I was texting you, and I was like, dude, I remember the moment I started liking girls. This movie, as the child, I was like, this is weird. This is kind of an arousing thing. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
In the older version, she looked good. I'm like, I'm like 10. I was like, I think I like girls. This is crazy. I was like, I think I'm interested in girls all of a sudden.
Yeah, fair. I mean, listen, once again, Christine Baranski, very beautiful actress.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I'd love to be in the meeting for how that all came about, because like also Jim Carrey is running with it too. He's being crass and crude about, like, he lands in her breasts like when he's going flying all around the place. It's like very like, this is the stuff that's the most like, how dare you do this to a Dr. Seuss book? Like, this is really the like dirty, like, makes you feel bad a little bit. Like, this shouldn't be in here. It's funny and it's crazy to talk about, but it's just like, yeah, it's nuts.
What's crazy is we watched this at 7, 8 years old, and this is a PG movie, because like it's PG for language and stuff, but like if you understand what you're watching, hardly PG. A lot of inferred things that certainly make this movie not PG. Like you, off the sexual note, but like you said, he literally, in his own words, tells Whoville to kiss his ass.
Yeah, in this movie, he does it physically. Like, it's I mean, I don't know what it was. I think it's just early 2000s. They were making these kinds of movies that were insane, because obviously movies like Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber, and even stuff like Austin Powers, was so hugely popular.
Oh yeah,
with adults and kids alike. So they're like, hey, let's mix in all this into like the Dr. Seuss stuff, because Cat in the Hat has the exact same problem where it's just like, how could you do this to a Dr. Seuss book?
That movie's weird, dude.
Yeah.
Michael Myers has oh God, I don't know if it means to, but God, he's got a sexual predator tone in that movie, and I'm just not here for it, dude.
Not great.
It doesn't feel like Cat in the Hat. It feels like some weird predator is dressed up as Cat in the Hat trying to get these children, dude.
It's not great. Yeah, no, I agree.
Well, I'm not showing my children that movie.
It's the same with both of these movies. It's just this weird, like, I don't know why they had to add it. I don't know why it's there. Listen, it's not like Ron Howard's movies, any other of them are like particularly horny or anything like that.
Right.
But this movie is for some reason. And I don't know if that's Jim Carrey bringing that in. I don't know if that's just the 2000 sensibility of like what a comedy should be. I don't know. Yeah, but it's crazy phenomenon where they were just like, let's add sex jokes into Dr. Seuss movies. I don't understand it. It's very strange.
I don't think I'll ever. I want to be in that writer's room and see who's like, I got it.
See, that's the other thing too, because like, is it a Jim Carrey improv? Because Ron Howard talked a lot about how like me and Jim would talk every morning while he's in the makeup chair, like, what do we want to do today? And Jim Carrey would throw out an idea. He's like, yeah, let's try it. I mean, who knows? Because I mean, Jim Carrey, like we said before, like leading up to this, it's Liar Liar, it's Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, Mask. Like, it's all these movies that are very rude and crude. And we love them for it because it's Jim Carrey's kind of humor and he's going to go off the wall and it's great. It's just a weird flavor for a Dr. Seuss movie. I mean, even, I forget exactly the year it was, but even like 6 to 8 years later when he does Horton Hears a Who, like, it's such a drastically different tone than like the one that this movie strikes.
Right.
And it's the same people, it's the same studio. I don't think it's Ron Howard directing. At least I'm pretty sure it's not Ron Howard directing, but it's a much calmer movie. There's no sexual overtones, at least I can remember. I've only seen it once, but strange.
Horton Hears a Who was directed by,
I'm sure some animation director.
Give it to me. Jimmy Hayward and Steve Martino.
Yeah.
So not Ron Howard.
Yeah. So strange. Very strange, the tone this movie strikes. Yes. And it's just also like very rude. I mean, obviously, the Grinch has to be rude, and I think that's also why you come to Jim Carrey, because he can do this kind of ruder kind of humor justice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it's just it's one of those things you just got to see to believe. At the end of the day, it's crazy what they do with it. Honestly, like, I don't know how you can read that book and that this is the vision you come up with. Like I said, I still like the movie. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with the makeup, with the sets. I think the Jim Carrey performance, as much as it is against almost everything that Dr. Seuss wrote in some ways, it works for me. Like, I'm still laughing. I'm still having a good time.
I love it.
It's just like you said, like maybe I wait till my kids are like 8 or 10 when I show them this movie because there's some uncomfortable stuff going on. Yeah, man.
Big
Crazy
thing I want to mention.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about an actress taking a back seat or really not being utilized? Molly Shannon.
Yeah.
Molly Shannon has a couple small scenes in this movie, and she's a powerhouse actor. And if I'm not mistaken, this is after movies like Superstar and stuff like that, where she has proven that she can be a lead. Yeah, Superstar came out in 1999. So literally right before, you've got her going crazy in that movie, showing that she can be a comedic lead. And they don't use her at all in this movie. I had to remind myself that was Molly Shannon. I was like, holy shit, Molly Shannon's just been kind of hanging out in this movie.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out if this was before or after Wet Hot American Summer. I think it's probably before.
Wet Hot American Summer was 2001. So
like the year after, essentially.
Yeah.
But like, even like a movie like that, where it's mostly driven by like, we'll have these little sections with these actors. Like they'll have like 2-3 minutes, and then we'll move on to the next thing, and then we'll come back to them in a little while. Like, she's fantastic in that movie where she just has her like little thing that she's doing, where she's like going through her divorce, and the little kids are comforting her through the whole thing, and it's like super funny. But yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's also, her husband is Bill Irwin too, obviously another very gifted comedic actor.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's just, when you hire Jim Carrey is going to be the one that drives it. He's the one in the driver's seat.
No doubt.
No question. And some people are going to get, because there are a lot of good, it's a Ron Howard movie. Ron Howard obviously has a great background in television. He's directed for a couple years. Happy Days.
He's Opie.
Yeah, he's Opie.
He's Opie from Andy Griffith, my favorite.
Yeah, he grew up in TV, so he knows a lot of these character actors. He knows these like week to week doing it for the job, not these rich and famous people. Like, he knows these people. Absolutely. And he's put a lot of people in the movie. Like, he talks about how he knew some of the like people that are kind of scattered around from like Happy Days or from one of his earlier movies.
Well, and again, we just touched on, I'm going to let you finish, but we also just touched on how Jim Carrey, came up doing, the skit show. What the hell?
In Living Color?
Yeah, this is that week to week same thing. So this is where I think Ron Howard and Jim Carrey probably built a good workflow together.
Yeah. So, Ron Howard, he's an actor's director. He was an actor himself. Like, he's one of those kind of guys who will bring in people like that. And you're right. It does kind of suck that he doesn't utilize them that much.
Jeffrey, how do you say his last name? Is it Tambor or Tambor?
Jeffrey Tambor. Yeah.
Dude, he is pretty utilized in this movie. But you want to talk about another pretty big hitter. He's funny. He's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Arrested Development, for sure, is the big one. So, yeah, it's that thing where it's just, it's with any other Jim Carrey's movies, too. It's just like, Jim Carrey's going to overshadow all of them, which is unfortunate. But I think it's also just, I agree with you. It would have been nice to see Molly Shannon, have something huge. Like, she's funny whenever she's on screen. She has some funny stuff that she says and does. But yeah, it's the same thing with Baranski. Like, Baranski is this hugely talented actress of stage and screen that is given kind of this thankless role as the person who's hot for the Grinch. And yeah, like you said, it's a caricature. It's a cartoon, which now I feel like this movie is channeling a cartoon vibe in a lot of ways. Ron Howard himself mentioned it when I was listening to the commentary and everything. And obviously a lot of the sound design, like people going in and out of rooms, especially in that scene where the Grinch himself is stealing Christmas. There's a lot of those cartoon effects and sound effects and all of that going on. But it does kind of stink that the Grinch is so... And Cindy Lou Who we haven't mentioned yet, great little performance by...
Shout out Taylor. Is it Taylor Momsen? Is that how you say it?
Taylor Momsen. Yeah. Great little child performance. She's really sweet in the movie. One of the kind of untainted parts of the movie. Like, she's the soul of the movie and heart of the movie in a lot of ways.
I tell you a part about the movie with Cindy Lou Who that was crazy to me is that when she's singing that song about, is it Christmas or is it me? I remember saying, this is a pretty wise and mature 10-year-old here talking about just staring out the window. Is it me?
No. Where are you, Christmas? Why can't I find you? It's... No, I agree.
Sad, depressed little girl. What's going on?
forget who did the score, but I remember specifically like they had a conversation about why they were thinking about like, does this need to be a musical? Should we make it a musical? Does there need to be a song? Like, we want to communicate, because the take this movie has is obviously that like Cindy Lou Who has a lot of the same hang-ups that the Grinch has right now, where it's like Christmas has turned into this commercial thing. I don't really get it. I feel like there's not really a lot of soul in this. I don't know what I'm supposed to make of this. Everyone's super excited, but I'm not feeling it. And just in a much less intense way than the Grinch is, obviously. But, you know, they came up with the song. Let me make sure, because I forget exactly who. I think it was, who did Braveheart? I know it was the guy who did Braveheart. James Horner. So he's obviously bigger name in the industry. He did Titanic. Like I said, he just did Braveheart. Like, very good composer. And he comes up with the song to like communicate all of this. And yeah, she's good. Like like you said earlier, like it's so tough to perform under all this makeup. And she doesn't have as much makeup on as everyone else, but
she's the only one in the movie. I guess the other kid's in the flashback, but she's the only one who doesn't have a fake nose.
Yeah. So,
sorry, just real quick, by the way.
Go for it.
I love the fact that the Mayor Augustus Mayhew says, "Oh, she hasn't even grown into her nose yet." It's like they like elephant in the room, I guess. Like they literally call out that her nose isn't like right, like with everyone else. It's hilarious.
Which, dude, another weird thing. We got to talk about the Augustus Mayhew, Cindy Lou Who feud going on in this movie. It's insane how much this guy he wants to yell at a kid so badly. He wants it so bad. He just gets so fucking angry at this little girl. It's nuts.
You can just tell how much he resents the Grinch, especially when you get into the flashbacks and stuff. Like he's like that. Just that angry kid or whatever that, I don't know, was always trying to prove his worthiness or something, because that's why, he's like, the Grinch isn't here. Surprise! I guess it goes to the runner-up. And he starts just going into stories about himself and telling y'all how great he is.
So goddamn petty throughout all of it.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Which, love Clint Howard, Ron Howard's brother, as Augustus Mayhew's like little sidekick who always has like a little something to say. Clint Howard, he's one of my favorite parts of any Ron Howard movie whenever he just pops up for like 5 seconds. That's always the best.
One of the best moments of this movie is when Mayor Augustus too gets his head shaved. He's like, do something, and he just goes, just shaves his own head down the middle. What a great I won't have you feel alone. I got you.
Yeah, it's also like one of my favorite moments, because we've talked about it on the show, I'm pretty sure, but like Solo, it's just that Clint Howard is just like running the robot fighting ranks.
Yeah.
Like I love that that's the job that Clint Howard has in Star Wars, is he's running the robot fights. Like that's fun for me.
I haven't seen Solo, so I'm not sure.
Fair. He's fun. I like him a lot. Here's the thing. I kind of love Ron Howard's career in a weird way, because it's so imperfect in so many ways. There's so many highs and lows throughout it. Like there's no, like he feels like one of those older directors who's like for hire a little bit. Like, and sometimes he'll hit, sometimes he'll miss. It's so different from now where it's like, you have a Christopher Nolan or a Tarantino or say a Denis Villeneuve, somebody like that, who like every movie has to be this masterpiece or nothing. Sure. If they fail, like they have this huge outreach of fans that are gonna be like, no, how dare you?
Definitely.
Ron Howard's just this like established name in the industry. Obviously he's Opie, like he's been in this industry since he was a child. But his directing career specifically, like it starts out in the 80s with Parenthood and some movies like that, which one of the most underrated like family comedies and just Ron Howard movies in general. Parenthood. Love that movie. So great. But he just has this career where he's just like, yeah, I'm going to make a movie, whether it works or whether it doesn't, I'm just going to go make the next one. Like he has his movie out right now, Hillbilly Elegy, which I've heard is not great, which is fine because I know Ron Howard's going to come back and the next thing he'll make will be like something interesting. Like one of my favorite movies the year it came out, I think it was 2013, was Rush, his Formula One racing movie with Chris Hemsworth and Daniel Bruhl. Love that movie. One of my favorite sports movies like the last decade. And I know it's been a decade starved of sports movies, and I'm very upset about that. But really fun. And then he'll make a movie like I still really like Cinderella Man as much as it's like kind of Oscar baity and stuff like that. I love me some Cinderella Man.
Cinderella Man.
Yeah, but
I might be wrong on this. I think I'm definitely wrong. He didn't do $1 Million Baby, did he? That was
no, that's Clint Eastwood.
Yeah.
But he just has like this imperfect career that I kind of like. He's just, I don't know. He's just a guy who likes movies, who likes making them. Like he does a lot of producing too, and obviously he's the voice of Arrested Development, which is a nice job to have. I love hearing his voice whenever he pops up in Arrested Development. That's always fun. I mean, so much so it's iconic to where you always see those tweets about like this person says something and it's like it wasn't. I always read it in Ron Howard's voice, no matter what. Like that's how good his voice is in Arrested Development. But yeah, big Ron Howard fan. Just to sum it up. And he does like a really good job with this movie. I think the movie looks pretty good. Like I think the camera works really well in it. He was talking about how him and his cinematographer worked out that they kind of want the camera to always be moving. They always kind of want it to be like, they never want it to be like straight on.
Yeah.
Really, they want like there's all these Dutch angles going on. The camera's always like, even if it's just
I noticed that a lot. I mean, shit, 70% of the shots in this movie are Dutch angle. That is a great point. Most of this movie is shot a little bit tilted.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's to fit with like the spiraling of the Dr. Seuss or because remember, this is literally all happening on a snowflake inside of it, you know, what they're talking about. So I don't know if it's to make like that dreamlike state, but yeah, I did notice that when I was watching, I was like, wow, most of this movie is a little tilted.
Yeah. And
it's
then
a great observation.
Yeah. And I mean, even with, if there's a shot where it's just like two people talking, it's usually just like diagonal for some reason.
Yeah.
It's that. It's also just like they'll move the camera in just these weird ways, like whether it's just like a degree or something like that. Like it'll always kind of be moving. Whether it's like it's strange.
You know, what do you think about this? Because they don't do it so much towards the end. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but is it the psychologicalness of like this jaded view that the Grinch has up until his heart is good and it, you know, he kind of sees straight again? I'm just kind of pulling that out of my ass, but like that would be like that would be my thinking of like the psychological part of doing that.
It's possible. I mean, I think it also has, because I mean, there are scenes with just Cindy Lou Who and her parents that are still that kind of way where it's like all tilted and everything like that.
True.
I think it's also just, you know, you've done this whole movie and you've made it in the style of old Hollywood, like so many different sets, so many different costumes. Like he referenced it specifically, like it felt like old Hollywood making this movie. Like we were walking around the sets, like going back and forth all day long, doing that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you do that, when you have your big finale, you want to shoot it like a classic Hollywood movie. You want it to be straight on. Like when you have those like bigger moments and you want like your emotion to come through, I feel like you don't want as much going on with the camera anymore. And I feel like there's still some stuff going on towards the end with that, but you really just want to like, you want to sell the stuff.
You want to forget that the camera's there because you're focused on that moment for sure.
You want the like big wide shot of the Grinch holding up the sleigh and going, yeah, like you want that. You want the triumph of it instead of still doing like all this stuff with the camera. I think you just kind of want to like let it breathe for a sec. We've already been through, because that follows essentially the big set piece where he's stealing Christmas and all of that is going on. All these different transitions that are crazy, all these different camera angles, all the way there's moving the camera, all these different bits that they're doing.
Yeah.
I feel like for a second they just want to like, let's calm down. We just did a lot. We're going to let you breathe for a little bit.
Yeah, we can't do sensory overload, especially back in 2000. We didn't have Instagram and nobody had the 10-second mindset that we got today. So, yeah, back then you couldn't do sensory overload.
Yeah, because now I haven't seen the newer Grinch they just did with Benedict Cumberbatch.
I haven't either.
Because I don't like illumination and animation in their movies. I'm not a huge fan of that.
Same.
And I don't want to support them anyway because, like, you know, listen, they're going to make their money. And so I just feel like it's always, they made the same movie like 5 times, and I don't need to keep going back.
I feel like this newer, at least from like the little bits that I've seen, I feel like this newer Grinch is them trying to be more spot on with like the original book, more of like a straight up adaptation.
Well, it's not even that. It's just like it's Despicable Me, the Christmas version. Like that's it.
That's a great way to put it. All the way down to Illumination Studios did it. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, what if we made a Despicable Me movie at Christmas? And they're like, oh, we got the Grinch. Let's just use that. And it's the same movie. It's a grumpy guy who's like enlightened and like brought to the light by a small child.
Yeah, literally.
It's just a Christmas time.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah. So it's just, I'm not going to pay to go see that. Like, I'm not going to do it. As much as I think that like Benedict Cumberbatch as the Grinch is an interesting thing. Like maybe one day I'll watch it to see kind of what that voice performance is.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that is an interesting choice.
Yeah. Cause I mean, listen, I'm one of the few out there who like kind of likes the Hobbit movies a good bit. I have fun with them. But like one of my favorite parts of those is Cumberbatch's Smaug. Like that's one of my favorite things in those movies is that voice performance and how into it he is. Yeah. And I'd kind of like to see the energy he brings to somebody like the Grinch.
Sure.
But yeah, so I don't know what that movie is like, but I imagine it's so much more toned down than what this is, even though it's an animated movie, which is another thing that bugs me about Illumination. Like they're a cartoon and they just don't know how to be a cartoon. That's the thing. They just don't put any, I don't, that's a conversation for another day, but like they bug me.
Sounds like we're reviewing Despicable Me next week.
We better not be. Sir, I hope not.
Looks like we're brushing the other movies out.
And listen, no, you're not taking Die Hard away from me for Despicable Me.
I know. That's why I'm saying it. I know it's coming up.
Not happening. But like this movie is like, it's crazy how it was made. Honestly, like you see now like how they would make a Grinch movie, and it's this animated, brightly colored, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then you look back to this, and like even though it is kind of crass in some ways and does not really adhere to what the book and its spirit is a good amount of the time, it's got character to it, man. It's got a lot of character to it. And I don't think you can take that away. Because, like, and I posted this out on Twitter and whatever, but, like, say what you will about this movie. I understand the criticism. I hear it. I agree with a lot of it. But you can't take away that this movie has a lot of character to it. I mean, we did our whole spiel about the makeup and the set design and the costumes. Like, I can't look at that and hate it because I see so much people's work put into it.
That's a good point.
And you don't put in that much work without like a true love for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And a real like kind of motivation and a spirit that wants this movie to be good and wants this movie to be loved and like give people that Christmas feeling. Because like, even when I watch it, I'm still like, yeah, it's Christmas. Like, I'm happy. This is great. I'm watching The Grinch.
Yeah, you still get some like warm moments where you're like, okay, I can do that.
Absolutely. Like when they're saying Dahu Doris at the end, I'm like bobbing my head a little bit. I'm doing the little sway. You got to do the little sway when you hear it because it's like it's just nice.
Of course.
And they talk about it. Apparently, that was the last day of filming, or like around there.
Okay.
And they talk about how like everyone was in. Everyone was so happy to be a part of the Dahu Doris. Like everyone was like grabbing hands. They're like, "Fuck yeah, we get to do it." I've heard this song since I was a child, and I get to be part of it. And they just like fucking sing it. Like that's nice to hear. Like that was the moment of triumph for everyone on set.
Hell yeah.
It was just them like, we got to sing the song, we got to all join hands, like the magic of movies and Christmas is here. Like that's nice.
Definitely.
And like, even I got like a little teary-eyed and I got a little lump on my throat and I like felt like, oh, this is great. This is nice.
Yeah, it ends on even for all the craziness throughout the movie, it ends on that Christmas sort of feel and makes you like, okay, I still just watched a Christmas movie.
Yeah. Which, listen, I'm basic. I fucking love Christmas movies. Like I love the Christmas feeling and all those Christmas movies. Like, listen,
yeah, dude,
I'll watch Love Actually, which I know is also like kind of some bullshit, but like I love it. I'm gonna watch my Die Hard. I'm gonna watch my It's a Wonderful Life. Like I love all this stuff. Elf obviously is another big one for me. Like it's all great. I'm such a huge fan. Shout out because I just remembered and we didn't really mention it, but like Anthony Hopkins, solid job as the narrator in this movie. Good stuff.
Is Anthony Hopkins the narrator in this movie?
Oh yeah, that's him.
How the hell did I not recognize that?
I don't know, because I forgot, and then I heard the voice. I was like, holy shit, it's Anthony Hopkins doing the voice as the narrator.
Yeah, motherfucker, it is right there. He's the last bill on the credits.
Yeah.
Wow. Another thing I wanted to grab, too, I mean, obviously, they took this from, like, the book and stuff, but ever so subtly, throughout the movie, more and more, the Grinch talks in rhyme. He even acknowledges it at one point, but it's really great writing how, I mean, it's kind of ripped from the book, but how he starts speaking in rhyme more and more throughout the movie. After, even in just like casual conversation, you don't necessarily catch it, but you're like, wait, he just rhymed there. He just rhymed again. Wait, he's been rhyming for the last 20 minutes.
Doesn't he himself make a joke that he's just like, and now I'm speaking in rhyme. I fucking hate it.
He literally acknowledges it at one point, but continues to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just that thing too where, and Ron Howard even talks about this, but like the first hour of this movie is essentially the prequel to The Grinch, where they have to make all this stuff up. They have to write it themselves. They have to figure out what the through lines are.
Yeah.
But once they hit him on the mountain talking about, it's all about packages, boxes are back. Like that's when he's like, now we are actually taking from the book. Now we actually have the material that we're going to use.
Yes.
Like we're not going to look at Dr. Seuss's great work and then not use it in a Grinch movie. Like we have Jim Carrey here. He wants to do it. Like we're going to use the Dr. Seuss rhymes.
Facts.
And I think it would be a huge mistake to not to.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, I'm not trying to, I know, is there anything else we need to, oh, here's what I want to talk about. The You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch sequence. A lot of fun. Still love it. I think the singing performance by Jim Carrey is really great. I think it's super fun. I love the little bits they have going on throughout it. I love the crash dummy shit. That's super fun.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, that's what these tests are for. Bring me a wrench. Oh, we haven't talked about Max.
I was just about to say, I was literally going to say that. We brushed past the great performance by, the dog's name is Kelly, but Max in the movie. But yeah, the relationship with Max and the Grinch are hilarious.
So much fun.
Absolutely incredible. The conversations that are had up in the mountain when they're just talking about whatever, like how he uses Max as like his, what am I looking for? Like his psychologist, like his therapist. Yeah. And some of the ants, it's really, it's cute. Gotta love when a dog gets involved. You can't ever get it. Max is adorable.
Very good dog performance.
One of the great dog performances for sure.
Yeah. Which we haven't really talked about we've talked about how he like interacts with the Who's and everything like that, but like when he's alone in his cave,
the best.
Some of the best stuff.
My favorite. I've been quoting this since I was a child. He goes, he said, "I'm an idiot." He said, "You're an idiot." He said, and then he goes, "I'm gonna stop. You can't even I am. You're an idiot." It just, the first time you watch that, I mean, you cry laughing. It's so funny.
Dude, I mean, one of my favorite bits is the schedule thing. It's like 6 o'clock dinner with myself. I can't cancel that again.
Yeah, I can't. I can't keep the schedule.
4 o'clock self-loathing.
Yes.
5 o'clock jazzercise. Like it's great.
It's like my schedule's full.
Let me see if I have any messages. If you so much as utter one syllable, I want you down and cut you like a fish. If you want to effectively press the star key.
Yeah.
Like it's just pure Jim Carrey. And I love it, like where he's just, what goes on in that man's head? What does he think of a lot of time? Like I feel like so much of that is on display in those moments.
Yeah.
As far as just the stuff he improvs, just like not even ever putting on screen, just like.
Dude, or when he gets the yodelers off, he's like, ooh, that's it, I'm not going. The comedic timing of that is so
that's all good. Which, fun fact, the little handle, like him gliding into the chair, he did it himself. He didn't want a stunt double. Right. Good for him. But because that shot is always so cool. Yeah. I love him going into the chair. But the You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch one is so much fun. I love... Apparently, Jim Carrey all day, the day they were filming it, was like, up to Ron Howard, like, I can't wait. You're going to love this. And Ron Howard's like, what the hell are you talking about? Just like, don't worry about it. You're going to see. When he puts on the Ron Howard hat and starts directing Max and like acting like a director.
Yeah, and he's like, cut it, take it, moving on. Because he just goes, brilliant!
And apparently all that was improv in the moment. It's all like, you hate Christmas. You reject it. So you reject the news. You do it. Like he's doing his whole like, it's fantastic. I love it. It's so good. He goes
full on director mode.
Yeah. It's, I mean, that's the thing. Like we've said, we brought up the criticisms. Like we've talked about how like we see it, we agree with it, all that good stuff. But like, it's just, there's a thing to it. I don't know what it is. I can't describe it. There's just a thing to it that like, I still enjoy it. Like, I'm not saying it's.
I'll certainly watch this movie again.
Yeah. Like, it's not one of those things where I'm like 10 stars or anything like or whatever. Like, it's a good 7 out of 10. It's a solid 7 out of 10 for me.
Solid 7.
Like, not anything truly incredible, but there's so much work put into it that Jim Carrey performance is so much fun that I can't fully hate it.
Yeah, and I know there's the criticisms for how it goes off what the Dr. Seuss's vision is or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I see it as what a display of creativity to take something where it's like you really gotta just do the script, and they changed so much, and still, like I said, people were let down, but like it's such a creative piece that you almost got to appreciate it. I do.
Yeah, I mean, you have to think of it as not a Dr. Seuss movie.
Exactly.
At a certain point. You have to think of it as like so divorced from it, which is a shame, but you got to do what you got to do.
Hey, it is what it is. The film industry is not meant to be a perfect adaptation of a book. It's meant to be a film.
And I understand that some people can't get past that fact, and I completely understand those people. If you don't want to watch it, it's this like very personal thing for you. You don't want to watch this Grinch. Fine. Like, I understand. Like, more power to you. I hope someday you get the Grinch movie or whatever. Well, I think you do. You have the animated version. Like, you have that Grinch movie you can go back to. But this is still like, it's, I mean, like I said, like, we were kids when this came out. Like, I saw it in theaters. I was probably like 4 when it came out, when I saw it in theaters, I think.
No, you were born in 94, right?
96.
Oh, shit. I thought we were the same age. Damn, all right.
No.
I just showed my age. My bad.
No, you're all good. But yeah, so I saw it like about when I was 4. Okay, so, I mean, it's not like I'm like questioning like, does this truly adapt Dr. Seuss's vision with how it should be adapted? And I'm like, obviously now it's a question. No, but like at the time I'm just like, oh, it's Jim Carrey. I'm laughing. Like, this is fun.
Literally.
This is fun.
Just living.
And I think this is a movie that like rides a lot off of nostalgia. But if you're someone who's interested in film, and obviously you've heard all the discussion about like it's kind of trashy and you haven't watched it in a while, I would go back and watch it just to see the work on display. I think it's kind of an incredible feat that this movie looks the way that it does, that it feels the way that it does. It feels so tactile and it feels tangible in a way that a lot of other movies don't. So yeah, I think that's all that I've got. Matthew, is there anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I think we got into it pretty well, to be honest.
I agree. So if that's it, I want to thank you all for watching very much. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. How do you feel about this movie? I guess it would be celebrating its 20th this year. I didn't even realize that. I guess it would be celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. Yep. 20 years after it's debuted, what do you think of The Grinch? Is it something you still watch every Christmas? Makes you feel all those good Christmas feeling inside? Is it just complete, absolute, how dare you do this to Dr. Seuss's vision kind of trash? Like, what do you think? We'd love to hear what you think about this movie. I think it's an interesting movie to discuss. Make sure you follow us on Instagram, Twitter. We'll have all those links down in the description. And make sure you keep tuning in. We're going to we have some more stuff Christmas planned. Like, we got some Die Hard coming up, like we mentioned. Probably a couple more things we got on the schedule. So make sure you tune in for that. And we'll see you next time.